Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of Leasing podcast. In this episode, I want to talk about a situation we had in the showroom a couple days back from a customer who actually asked us, should I buy or lease a vehicle? Then I thought, well, that is definitely a good topic to talk about here in this podcast. Well, there are benefits and disadvantages in both cases. So I'm going to bring to light some points so you can make a decision next time you're faced with the decision of buying versus leasing. For starters, buying a vehicle pretty much gives you the ability to do whatever you please with such vehicle. For example, there are no mileage restrictions in a buying contract versus a lease where there are. Usually, the lease contract will have a set an allowance of mileage that you can do per year. If you go over those mileage after the end of the lease, you might be responsible for paying the overage allowance that you went over from your lease contract. Vehicle and trim and condition on a purchase is not much of a concern. Versus a lease, you have to keep an acceptable wear and tear in the vehicle, otherwise you might have to pay extra fees at the end of the lease. In general, however, when you compare a lease versus a purchase, usually the lease option is less expensive when it comes to the monthly payment versus the purchase. Now, you might be asking yourself, why? Well, that is because on the leasing, you're only financing the depreciation of the vehicle while you're leasing the vehicle. Versus the purchase, you're actually financing the whole amount. Now, when it's time to return the lease, a lease return can actually be an advantage or disadvantage depending on how you want to look at it. In the lease, you can actually change your car faster because usually the lease is much shorter than the contract for a purchase. Also, in the lease, there's usually a disposition fee and unused miles are not refundable. However, in the lease, you do have the option to buy the lease payoff at the time that you return the lease. Therefore, if you really like the vehicle, it might make sense for you to buy it depending on the vehicle's value at that time. And lastly, buying a vehicle, it gives you the ability to trade in the vehicle at any particular time. Let's say that your driving needs have changed, that family is growing, or you need to get into a much compact vehicle. You do have the option to do it at any time, as long as it makes sense financially and depending if you have negative equity or equity, something that we have talked about in previous episodes. There you have it, my friends. Now you know the difference between leasing a vehicle and purchasing a vehicle. So next time you face that situation, you are going to be able to make a decision based on what makes more sense to you. Thank you for watching, my friends, and remember to stay tuned for future episodes of Leasing podcast. Also, don't forget to keep sending those comments and suggestions for any specific topic that you want me to talk about in future episodes. You can do it by going to Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Also, remember to check out our website at yumaleasing.com or simply call us at 928-783-9462 or visit us at the corner of savings of A Street at Magnolia, where you're going to be greeted by a friendly professional sales consultant. Stay safe, and I will see you next time, my friends.